Hello there, Next Gen fam. Welcome to Mentor Moments with Next Gen HQ. We're so honored to have Annmarie Chereso with us today to tell her story so that you can grow into whatever the next path of your future looks like as well. Sit back, take out your notebooks, and enjoy this short but powerful conversation to come. So we are so excited today to have Annmarie. She is an author, a teacher, a coach, and a liberator who's empowering young people to be free, to be authentically happy, fulfilled, and successful on their own terms, both in and out of college. Annmarie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. So fun to be with you.
Where are you calling us from in this wide world we're in?
It is a wide world. I'm calling from my amazing little tiny office in Chicago, downtown Chicago. I live right on the DePaul campus in downtown Chicago.
Oh, amazing. And DePaul is also where you teach at or have some sort of connection to?
No, I have taught at DePaul, as a matter of fact, but no, I don't teach in a particular school. I teach all over through the internet and yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Well, we're going to dive into Annmarie's story right now. But first off, it's a little bit of a Next Gen tradition. We have to take you through some rapid fire questions just to get to know you a little bit more as a person as well. Mm-hmm. So buckle up. Are you ready?
I'm ready. I like doing this at the beginning.
You know what? It's the perfect time to get to know you a little bit more. So what is one book that you'd recommend others read right now?
Oh, it's right here on my desk.
Perfect.
It's Answers from the Heart by Thich Nhat Hanh.
Amazing. What's one person you think everyone should follow on social media right now?
Oh, well, I mean, is it fair to say, like, right now we're in the middle of a giant civil unrest in the world. So right now, who should we follow? Gosh, this answer seems kind of trite, but Barack Obama.
Oh, amazing. I did just follow Barack Obama just a few days ago and was super inspired by the content there. Are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
Tea.
Is that tea?
Yes, tea.
I love that. I love that. And finally, what's one of your favorite movies?
Oh, wow, Rachel. I have so many. What's one of my favorite movies? Okay, let's see. The Help. Do you know The Help?
That is a good one. I have yet to read the book though. I feel like I definitely need to read the novel that created the movie.
I've done both, and I just watched it recently, so it's probably top of mind. But that's one of my faves.
Amazing. I love that. Now that we're all a little bit more personal, we're all on the same page. We're going to dive right into the really good stuff and hear some of Annmarie's stories. So Annmarie, I know that what you're doing right now is such impactful work in promoting conscious leadership and well-being in young individuals in the home environments that they're raised in. But has your journey and your path always been on this angle, or have you had some pivots kind of earlier on in your journey?
Really great question. So, like, if you were to really know me, back when I was really, really little, I was a sort of an odd kid, and I was always on like this personal development spiritual path and curious. I was always seeking information that others I wasn't in relationship to was seeking. And I was reading books other people weren't reading. So I would say that, like, from an early stage, my curiosity was there. And then as my life meandered, it took me in certain places that opened me up to lessons that continue to shape who I am today. So I would say, my early 20s was a time of great clarity and developing myself. Like, I always had a clear vision of who I was and who I wanted to be. Then my mid-30s, life sort of came crashing down. I went through a divorce. I was giving birth to my third child. Life was just like not at all the way I had planned. And then I had to shift and pivot there. I had to reimagine what I thought my life was going to look like. And what unfolded from there on till now, I just turned 50, was a ton of um, clarity and conviction for who it is I really am, what it is I really want to do, what I want to stand for in the world. So I think that pivot happened kind of around the time I was like mid-30s.
Do you remember in going through this pivot, I'm sure with everything else that was going on, this was probably a really scary and unrestful time in your life. Do you remember what kind of the emotional side of this was like to know I need a change, I need to make this happen to myself?
Yeah, it was so scary, right? Like change is scary. We don't want to change. We want to stay comfortable and with what's known. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned in my life, is to stay in the discomfort of not knowing. And the fear is actually of use, right? Like it's a driving force to change. And so while I didn't want to get divorced and I didn't want to change my life and I didn't want to upset the apple cart, and I was terrified to do so, like I knew that there was something inside me that was clamoring to come out and do something differently. And I stuck with it. I stepped into that fear and I just went forward, and it opened up, limitless doors.
So really leaning into that sensation of being uncomfortable and being scared, but knowing that there was a brighter light outside of this if you were to just kind of grasp the opportunities that came. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what did you find that opportunity to be, that thing that was really calling out to you at that moment?
Well, it's sort of like, who do I want to be in the world, right? Like who do I want to be? And for me, I'm now here I am almost 20 years later, and I am who I want to be fully, right? But that was the awakening for me, and that the beginning to step into. And I think the big lesson wasn't like, what is it I'm actually doing? Because we all can choose something different, right? Who I am in the world is I'm someone who empowers the next generation of leaders to lead consciously, to be empowered to live the lives they most that are most aligned for them. And so I found mine in that darkness, in that dark time in my life. And what I think the big lesson I learned in that time was to step into fear fearlessly, to step into uncertainty, to just be with it all, that it's okay to be afraid. It's important to be afraid.
I love that. And that is exactly the message that it seems like you're trying to really instill in the leaders that you are currently working with and training, to also step into fear fearlessly and figuring out what that path of alignment for themselves really looks like. What was that big moment of epiphany when you're like, bring it home? This is what I want to do. This is where I need to be in my life right now.
Yeah, it's a funny story, because when I first got out of my marriage and I became a coach and started working in leadership, I worked a lot with parents, and that's sort of what called me. I was a parent, and I really believed that as parents, we shape the next generation. So I was always about shaping the next generation, but I started working with parents because we have a major influence in our children's lives. Then I started working in schools all around Chicago and all around the country, where I'd go into schools and I'd work with teachers and students, and we'd teach mindfulness and self-awareness and all these skills that are so important to emotional intelligence. And, I was always interested in empowering. And what, I had sort of this awakening, and my awakening was, I keep working with the next generation indirectly, and I really want to work directly with the next generation. So that's a recent knowing of mine. So it's a couple of years old. And I shifted, when I came up with the name Bring It Home, which is the umbrella of my business, it was all about like bringing it home to our center, to ourself. And so it's kind of a funny name, but it's really meaningful to me. It's bringing it back home. And for me, that means, we start developing our patterns early in childhood in our families, and those patterns we bring out into our lives as we grow and evolve. So as I came to realize that my deep desire was really to work directly with the next generation, I started to go out and speak and work on college campuses and work with young adults out of college and start supporting the next generation more directly.
Amazing, because it's true, and there was a reason that you started off first working indirectly with the next generation. Maybe that was even a time for you to really understand what it meant to be a part of that culture and what it looked like. So then it gives you greater clarity when you did make that move into working with these young individuals and, if you will, these young leaders.
Yeah. And if I were really honest with you, Rachel,
yeah,
I would say that there was a part of me that was afraid to step into this new role, right? Working directly with next gen leaders. I didn't know how, I didn't know what it looked like. And so, I was taking these baby steps, but when I kept finally waking up to this longing I had, I realized, oh, here I am again. I'm still a little afraid. There's still some fear that was holding me back. The moment I got that clarity once again, and I said, oh, this is actually where I want to put my time and energy and my influence, then life just started happening super easily.
I think that's so reminiscent to at least those first few stages of the entrepreneurs we constantly see in our lovely Next Gen community. And hello, everyone who's joining us. It's that fear and that wonder, should I really go after this? It's then the taking of baby steps to figure out if this really does feel good and feel as though they're being really called to that. And then it's kind of that deep plunge into, no matter what obstacles I face, I'm going to continue on and keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I think the true sign of, am I in alignment with what I'm here to do, is when the obstacles come, I still keep going. I don't use the obstacles as excuses to give up. They're just opportunities for learning.
Absolutely. I want to ask you kind of a question as far as that moment of self-awareness that you brought up before, where you've been developing as a leader, and then a few years ago you realized, no, I need to work with the young generation. And there was that moment of figuring there is a little bit of fear, but I'm going to lean into it. It seems like empowerment is very big to who you are. So how do you feel that you've been able to empower yourself as a leader to continue to push past whatever is thrown at you?
Well, the way that I empower myself, the most significant way I empower myself is with my meditation practice. My meditation practice, I've had a meditation practice since I was 20 years old, but it's only been in recent years that I've understood how empowering it is to, meditation isn't about just getting quiet for a moment and calming yourself down. That's not at all what it is. And that's what I used to think it was. And what I got with this meditation is a deep, deep practice of stilling out the noise so that I can deeply know myself. And as I deeply know myself, I can see where I'm in my shadow, where I'm in the dark sides, where my fear gets in the way of propelling me forward. And then when I can unlock that and I can see clearly, then I can work with it.
You are definitely inspiring me to start taking on more of a meditation and mindfulness practice. It's something that I'm one of those people. I always say I'm going to start it, and then I get lost in what really is the goal and the point and what I'm trying to bring to my life.
We all say we don't have time for it. And in my experience, it's when I don't take time for my meditation practice, I create much less time in my life. It's very interesting, paradoxical, but it's true.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing. Give us all the paradoxes, all the lessons that you've had. We love it. Kind of going and asking another kind of question as far as what's come at you as an entrepreneur, because of course we're speaking to entrepreneurs right now. Is there something in mind as far as a moment that you experienced of failure that really took everything in you to continue to push forward for what you know is where you're most aligned, which seems like it is in Bring It Home?
Great question. I've had lots of little failures. I'm trying to think if there's a big giant failure that comes to mind recently. It's funny that you asked this because I have a particular relationship to failure, and my mindset is like, I don't actually experience failure. I experience obstacles and learning, obstacles and learning, obstacles and learning. So when you use the word failure, I have to sort of filter it through all my layers of belief systems. But let me think, the most recent failure. Oh, I've got one. This is great. So, as I said earlier, I focused a lot working with parents and educators because I was committed to supporting those who were supporting the next generation of leaders, because I know how much impact they have. But I would create lots of programs. I would spend lots of energy. I'd be spinning my wheels to build that part of my business. And it wasn't getting a lot of traction. And to be fair, there's a lot of people out in the world doing that work already, working with parents and working with educators and bringing these kinds of leadership tools and skills. And I've kind of always felt like I was banging my head against the wall. I'm like, I keep creating these things and I'm not getting the kind of traction that I want or desire. And it was feeling like failure in the moment. But because I was in this deep practice of meditation and staying connected to myself, I quickly got with like, not the right direction, not the right direction. And so my inner knowing and my inner guidance was taking me over here, but my fear was keeping me over here in the thing that was most familiar to me. I should be working with parents and educators because I'm a parent and I'm an educator, and young people don't want to listen to me. That, there's all sorts of unconscious stories I had that was holding me back. But once I stopped listening to those voices, that failure turned to focus. And I was able to focus more clearly on really what was aligned for me. So yeah, so that sort of feels like the right answer.
That was a beautiful answer. There are no right ones except the ones that come from you being vulnerable and honest with us. And I thank you so much for that. So it seems like fear into focus. That's exactly kind of what this situation brought about in your life.
Yeah, I like that. That's like a tweetable.
It's directly from your mouth alone. I take no say on that. Well, Annmarie, I want to take this time to thank you so much for coming on to Mentor Moments with us. This was such a fantastic conversation, and we're so excited for how many beautiful takeaways there were from your inspiring story. To end this conversation, we'd love to hear what your hope is for the next generation of leaders. What's something that you really see in the future?
Yeah, so my deep, deep hope is that the next generation of leaders wakes up to empower themselves to lead consciously and with deep awareness, so that we can be the change that we want to see in the world that we all want and deserve to live in. And really, that's like my greatest hope, that we're empowered, heart-centered, conscious, awake, aware leaders.
And if someone in our community wants some more of these empowering thoughts from yourself, where would they be able to come and connect with you on socials, chat with you, to kind of dive in further?
So I just started my new Instagram page a short time ago, like a couple of months ago. So we're growing it. So come see me at AnnmarieChereso.me. That's a great place to start and find me. I have a podcast called the University Podcast, where I talk with next gen leaders. So come visit me there as well.
Well, thank you again so much, Annmarie. You can bet we're going to have that social link in the comments below, so everyone can kind of get more involved. But for right now, Next Gen fam, we wish you the most empowering day ever, and can't wait to see you on the next Mentor Moment.
Thanks, Rachel.
Bye, everyone.